You don't like the Drake?
I hate the Drake.
I love the Drake.
How could you not like the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
The Drake is good.
Oh.
You like the Drake? I love the Drake. Good for them. Love the Drake.
Got to love the Drake.
I'm impressed. What can I say? I'm irresistible.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Robin, Everyone Loves the Drake comic podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the BatmanUniverse.net, your home for all things Batman and Robin. This podcast is also a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network that's associated with Batman on Film. So thank the guys over there for adding us to their list of podcasts as well. You can get a hold of the podcast in a few different ways. One is through our Facebook page at facebook.com/Everyone Loves the Drake. We're also on Twitter at ELTD Podcast. You can email the show at robineltdpodcast@yahoo.com. And we also have a YouTube page, which you are currently watching this. If you are seeing the video, or if you're listening to us, you can check us out on YouTube and just put in the search engine, Robin Everyone Loves the Drake Podcast. Okay, if you are seeing this video, now I'm back from not reading the script here. If you are seeing this video, I wanted to give my first initial reactions upon reading. Of course, we know it is Detective Comics 940, just came out today. And this is also going to be an edit into episode 44. At the time that this is being recorded, we hadn't recorded our thoughts on the 940 here, excuse me. So before putting up this episode, this only covers the Detective Comics books leading up to 938. So at the time that you're listening to this, we haven't read 940. And with the podcast coming out a week after this issue is released, I thought some people might say, oh, these guys are going to be talking about this issue, and we're not going to. We're actually going to wait till 941 comes out. But I couldn't, excuse me as I itch my face here, I couldn't let this podcast go up without giving some initial thoughts and feelings of this issue. So if you're seeing this video right now, this goes without saying. It's going to go into a little bit of spoiler territory here. I'm not going to try to make this really long, as Terrence and I will be talking probably in great lengths about 940 and then whatever happens in 941. And I think we could turn 940 into its own podcast. So I'm going to try and keep my thoughts a little bit small here, as you know, there's still an hour of a podcast we recorded in the first part of August. So this is your spoiler warning. If you are watching this video, that's why I've waited till about 9 o'clock to upload it. This was supposed to be a live video, and YouTube changed the way that they are doing their live videos, so I have some homework to do before I can do another live video. Anyway, so this is your spoiler warning. If you don't want to hear anything, I'm going to try and keep the spoilers to a minimum and some thoughts, but spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Red Robin. Okay, the big elephant in the room, we've known for almost a month that something is going to happen to Tim Drake. We have been on message boards and Twitter and, you know, the Facebook page and the Twitter accounts and Instagram and all these things talking about what James Tynion IV is planning with Tim Drake. It's even been talked about in the early stages of the New 52, getting into Death of the Family and then other events that happened. Was DC going to kill or get rid of Tim Drake somehow? And I felt like every story in the New 52 was one where we went, whew, dodged a bullet. Tim is still alive. And, well, he's the leader in Teen Titans. Surely they're not going to take Tim away. And he's been an integral part of the Batman universe for 26 years. But in the New 52, Tim seemed a little odd, seemed a little different, wasn't quite himself. And it wasn't until Rebirth, in the start of Detective Comics, that Tim Drake started to feel like Tim Drake again. And I know Terrence and I were just pounding our fists going, yes, this feels like Tim Drake. This sounds like Tim Drake. He's acting like Tim Drake. And as the story progressed, it kind of seemed like, well, Tim might have other plans and he might want to go off to this prestigious college. And, you know, would he really leave the book and all those type of things? And then we started hearing things that DC may be getting rid of Tim Drake and what that could mean. And this issue really had a lot of us Tim Drake fans scared. Some of us were saying, no, they're not going to kill him. But there was that spot in the back of your mind that it was like, really, are we going to go down the rabbit hole of killing another Robin? We did it with Jason, and then we did it with Damian, and then Dick died, faked his death. And I thought, well, maybe they're going to do another fake out. Maybe Tim really won't die. And we had the initial cover. I'm holding it up here for the viewers. But the initial solicited cover had Tim, as I'm backwards here, had Tim right here in this spot. So if you're listening to this audioly, you really can't tell what I'm pointing at. But on the video, hey, I'm pointing at the book. And then the actual cover got released, and Tim Drake is missing from this. People are wondering who this person was down here in the bottom. Is this Tim? Was he in some kind of suit of armor? My initial thoughts were, we've had my guesses. Now, somewhere on Facebook, on Twitter, I had put a guess of what actually happened in this book, but that was like one of 5 possible scenarios I came up with. So I'd like to say, yes, I guessed it just right. It wasn't until after Batman Beyond 19, or was it 16? I don't have the book in front of me. I think it's 16. I'll have to probably put another credit in somewhere in case I'm wrong. But one of the things I possibly guessed was we saw Clayface shapeshift a couple different times. And I thought, what if in 938, the Tim Drake that we're seeing that has reprogrammed the drones, what if it's not actually Tim? What if it's Clayface and it's a huge fake out? Well, that didn't happen. And then upon reading Batman Beyond, after Terry McGinnis comes back and Tim is saying, well, I'm going to ride my motorcycle off into the countryside and I'll just kind of see what goes on. He disappears. So that got me thinking, what if the same thing happens in Detective Comics? And that was one guess. The other guess was, we're really going to lose Tim. I can't believe James Tynion would kill off his favorite character, and I'm not trying to drone on too long because I know this is stuff Terrence and I are going to talk about. So, but what ends up happening is you're reading through this book, and I was just, every page I felt was just like this gut-wrenching page of like, Batman's got to get there. Batman's got to get there. They mention Midnighter and Nightwing. I'm like, yes, there's portals. James wrote Batman and Robin Eternal. They use these portals all the time. The portals weren't going to work. Tim is saying all these things to, and we'll go more in depth in the actual episode in 45. This is 44 you're listening to, so I'm going to try and keep these thoughts. But I read this at work. I wanted to wait till 5 o'clock, till after I got off of work, to read this book, and I just couldn't do it. I tried to download digital from a couple of the friends that were going to share their copy with me, and that wasn't working quite right. And I was actually upset at work. I think had I read this book at home, I think I would have cried. And I know that may kind of say, oh, Rob's going to cry reading a book. Hey, Kevin Smith cries all the time, and people kind of make fun of him. But it was that emotional weight that was added to the book. This is 26 years of following this character that I love. I mean, I'm wearing a shirt. I've got Tim Drake stuff all over this room that you're seeing again. If you're listening to it, you can't see what I'm pointing at. But it was one of those that I'm like, as much as I liked the Damian character, I was sad when they killed off Damian, and I was disappointed what they were doing with the Nightwing character at first and faking his death. And I'm like, surely we don't need to go down the road of killing another Robin. And I started like understanding what some other fans would feel like when they lost Wally West and Wally wasn't around anymore, or different variations of characters that you may have known and loved that they just kill off in comics. And you're like, well, now what? And I felt like that was happening to me now. Like my favorite character that I have bought every single issue for the most part, and I've read so much of this character and watched, Batman the Animated Cartoon series and anything I could get my hands on in Tim Drake, that I'm looking at a Lego figure right here again that you can't see if you're listening to this. If it had the Tim Drake R on it or the Red Robin logo, I bought it because I love this character. For whatever reason, it spoke to me. Terrence and I have talked about it at great lengths on the podcast. And I'm at work as I'm reading this. I finally decided, forget it. I know I'm going to buy the physical copy. I'm just going to download it right now, and I'll just deal with whatever happens. And it's going to wreck my day or whatever. And every page I was turning going, I can't believe they're going to do this. And then we get to the last page. And I'm trying to not pontificate here on the intro of an episode that's an hour and some change here. But I think you understand what I'm talking about. Getting that moment of seeing Batman hold the letter and him trying to console Stephanie and Bruce realizing what he has just lost, what has just happened to him, and he doesn't know. Spoilers, 5, 4, 3, 2, Tim disappears. Ozzy has Tim. Tim thinks he is dead. He's in this containment cell. And I was just like, I wanted to stand up and clap and cheer in the break room where I was at work. I could not believe. There was that part of me that said, surely they're not going to kill off Tim Drake. And then, like, my heart sank, and then it just leapt right up into my throat, and I was just, I can't even get out what I'm trying to say here. It's exciting to know Tim is still alive, but what's going to happen with Tim? How are we going to get out of this? And there's a lot more that I want to say, but I don't want to take up this episode time. I think this is the sigh of relief that a lot of us Tim Drake fans have been wanting to breathe for a while, of knowing, felt like this carrot has been dangling over us. Like, you know, you've seen it in Bleeding Cool and comicbook.com and any of these other different places that you want to talk about, like, is DC going to get rid of Tim Drake? Is one of their own going to fall? Teen Titans 24 just came out today also. So read this after you read this. And of course, if you have made it this far, you may not have realized, I didn't realize Teen Titans was in here. It does play in here. It does help launch Rebirth Teen Titans. And it's a kind of a memoriam issue. We'll explain more in the actual podcast. I just kind of wanted to get this recorded on the day, some quick thoughts and feelings. I don't know how. My feelings are all over the place. I'm happy that my favorite character is still alive. He's out there kicking. He's mad. He's ticked. He's been captured. But what does that mean for us picking up 941? Are we going to see what Tim is currently doing in 941? If you remember, when Rebirth was launched, they were talking this is possibly going to be a 2-year story arc, that it's all going to culminate in probably another Rebirth, one-shot. So are we going to have to wait almost 2 years to see Tim Drake again? Is he going to appear somewhere else, or kind of, as different people are being captured? If you've read Action Comics, you know what's happened there. If you read Batman and Beyond, you know what's happened there. This begs the question, is the New 52 Superman dead? Has he also been captured? Is Lois Lane, has she been captured? There's a rumor going around that the 2 cells on either side could be Bart and Connor Kent. So there's a lot to talk about, and I wish we could talk about it more, but I just wanted to get through to say this part, to say welcome to Robin, Everyone Loves the Drake, and welcome to the show.